Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I'm Vishal Dahiya, and this week we will talk about wheeled armoured platform. Now, wheeled armoured platform is an amphibious vehicle with common platform for various roles such as armoured personal carrier, 30 mm infantry combat vehicle, 105 mm light tank, 120 mm mortar carrier, command post vehicle, ambulance, special purpose platform and CBRN vehicle. DRDO, along with a private player, has developed a wheeled armour platform which is undergoing various tests by the Indian Army. This platform has been designed and developed with the aim to replace Soviet-era BMPs and APCs which are currently in service with the Indian Army. This offers a high level of protection, mobility and firepower. For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests in the studio today. Let me first introduce the guests to you, beginning with Retired Major General Ravi Arora, Chief Editor of Indian Military Review. We also have with us Retired Major General Dr. P.K. Chakravorty, our defence expert, and we have with us Mr. Ajay Banerjee, the defence correspondent of the Tribune. Let me begin with you, General Arora, and let's first start by trying to understand what exactly is a wheeled armoured platform and why we, giving that much focus or importance to this kind of platform right now.
Very briefly, let me touch upon how it all started. Ever since the advent of the motor car, one gentleman by the name of Sims used a quadricycle, a four-wheeled kind of automobile with a Maxim gun, no armor at all, no protection, as a weapon of war. And that very soon led to an armored protection around a car using a cannon. But thereafter there was no stopping, and it led to, by the time World War II came, we were using scout cars and we were using armored cars for escorts, for protection, for closing in with the enemy. And then in the era of mechanized warfare, when more developments took place, all this inspired to develop the infantry combat vehicle or the armored personnel carrier, where these would operate along with mechanized column, that is tanks, to keep up with them, to convey the infantry safely up to the objective where they would dismount. The tanks would support or overrun the enemy, and the infantry which dismounted would go and engage the enemy and capture the ground. So since then, these APCs, whether they were tracked or wheeled, both were used. Today, among the top 10 APCs of the world, they are all wheeled, not tracked. Although there are tracked APC, we are ourselves using a tracked infantry combat vehicle, the BMP-2 now. Now, this also, you can also think back about irregular warriors like the ISIS warriors who use Toyota pickup trucks to mount anti-aircraft machine guns, to mount rocket launchers, to all sorts of weapons, and they use them as escorts also. So guns on wheels has been trending. Today a time has come when the advantages and disadvantages of tracked vehicles, that is mainly tanks, vis-a-vis wheels, one is opposite to the other. The advantages of tanks are the disadvantages offered by wheels, and the advantages of wheels are the disadvantages. Now let's look at it this way. Wheeled vehicles are wheeled armored platforms are almost half the weight of tanks. Tanks are going from 60 to 70 tons. Wheeled are from 15 to 30 to 35 tons. They are much faster. Tanks go at 60 to 70 kilometers on road. Wheeled armored platforms, they go at almost 100. The one you mentioned, developed by Tatas and DRDO, the wheeled armored platform, has a speed of 100 kilometers on road. In water, it is 10 kilometers per hour, whereas tracked APCs, our BMP-2 itself gives about 7 kilometers per hour. So, but worldwide the trend is going towards having lighter tanks based on wheels, because the nature of warfare, the battlefield environment is such that contact and fighting is taking place in various domains, on land, sea, air, cyberspace, in outer space.
Okay.
And these vehicles are required to have connectivity, adaptability, fast mobility. And one of the biggest advantages is mobility and speed, which also offers it survivability.
Okay.
They may have less thickness of armor, but they are more survivable because they can scoot, they can escape, they can fire, and they can, disappear.
Okay.
Whereas on the other hand, the tank is heavy. It has got to carry a heavier armament, more ammunition. It has got lesser space. It has got a bigger power pack because it requires more power. It can go only up to a certain distance with the amount of fuel it carries. Whereas wheeled vehicles can go much further, 1,000 kilometers or so, and yet not require repairs. A tank after 400, 500 kilometers may require logistics certain support, repairs and things like that.
So it's about mobility is the aspect here when we look at, between wheeled and tracked armored platform. Let me bring in General Chakravorty here. General Chakravorty, quite an apt, sum up there by General Arora. But if we look at both the advantages and disadvantages with wheeled armored platform and tracked armored platform, how do you look at that? Because both have their own usages as far as the field is concerned.
See, I would say, when you are looking at these platforms, if you have to undertake a combat, your track helps you to maneuver and have a heavier gun, as he said, and better firepower. So anybody wanting to, let us say, use offensive action, a heavy breakthrough, shall I put it, undoubtedly it has got to be on track. But as he said, everybody is not involved in the initial, shall we say, what is known as the breakthrough or the breakout or aspect, but they have to do tasks which are in follow-up, if I may say. For this you need speed, you need less maneuverability, because by then your track is known, already the armor is made. For this the wheel becomes better. Another aspect you must understand, wheeled vehicles are definitely more economic. The tracks automatically become costlier both in terms of maintenance, in terms of manufacture, in terms of weight. The other issue when you come to other arms, let's take the artillery. We still have a GSQR for the wheeled SP gun. I myself was involved in the trials of this wheeled SP gun between Constructra and Rheinmetall. The Constructra gun did well, but due to certain problems, it has landed in legal issues. We are back again possibly to our issue of RFP. So we wanted wheeled gun, particularly for the terrain in which deserts are, as you know, disappearing. In the what you call the southern part of the desert, track is the only answer. And with track you have the wheeled Tatra, if I may put it, which is good. But for the other parts, right up to what you call almost even this thing, wheeled is excellent. Let's take even the BRDM today. In your northern areas, you still have the BRDMs and its ability to what you call mount certain missiles and have excellent firepower. Again, you must understand in the mountains, it's not combat versus what you call a heavy, what you call combat taking place with other vehicles. The next issue I want to bring out, you've got a host of other vehicles. As you brought out the command posts, the what you call ambulance, you have to have an ambulance also for what you call getting. Those will be better on the wheeled. Next, replacement of track. As he brought out correctly, after 400 kilometers, you have to carry out some track. The wheeled vehicle will continue. That tire will continue for possibly at least I would put it 8,000 to 10,000 kilometers on a cross-country mode.
Okay.
Which is a big issue.
Maintenance,
even on the battlefield maintenance. Then after that, replacement of engines. See, the tank engine is a very heavy engine. On the battlefield, replacement of the engine, which is being done now, involves a lot of what you call, shall we say, precision. It involves a lot of issues. Whereas the wheeled one, today it's very easy to replace engines, to do anything. So availability, ultimately it's a question of mobility is also based on availability. So availability becomes more, and your ability to climb steep slopes. Now when we come When we come to the power to weight ratio, particularly in high altitude and other areas where today we still are looking for a light tank, we still are, and as you say, even the present Tatas and all, we are looking for those areas. The thrust which you get is much more on the wheel, because the engine that you can place can take this vehicle due to its lighter mobility.
Okay.
So that's how, I mean to say, overall when we look at it, the wheel, as he brought out clearly, not for the main battle tanks. Main battle tanks, I don't think a single main battle tank is on wheels. But if you take the, as he says, the APCs, the infantry combat vehicles, or whatever term you are using for each of this, or you take the SP guns, there are a large number on wheel, and reconnaissance vehicles.
Okay.
Which have become extremely important, particularly today with satellite communication, C2 coming in, ISR coming in. These have become extremely important.
So it has got multiple usages out there as well. Ajay, your viewpoint on the utilization or usages of wheeled armored platforms?
See, first of all, Vishal, I'll break it down like this. A lot of people watch this program. Some are experts, some are youngsters, some are college-going kids. So let us first understand what is this picture about which you are showing on the screen. See, this picture is different from a tank. A tank is supposed to be having tracks under in place of these wheels. Tanks have a certain kind of role in a warfare. They also have the limitations, as the two experts have pointed out. Now, the second part comes an infantry combat vehicle. That is called an ICV, which also has a track like a tank. Now, this is what we see on the screen for your viewers, Vishal, is actually an infantry combat vehicle which has wheels. Now, these wheels mean the following things. 1, speed. 2, imagine you are in a war and the commander has to move from one place to another. The helicopter can't fly because it will be shot down. So, he has to move surreptitiously at night or at some other time. The wheeled vehicle will be used because 1, it will make less noise. 2, it will be quicker. And 3, it will provide the requisite protection to the commander.
Okay.
1. 2, such kind of vehicle in other countries, they are now modifying these such vehicles to move quickly to one location to another. Why I say this particularly? In the Himalayas, when we talk about the Himalayas, we need much more of these with a larger gun. We are talking of 105 mm gun. I think some of the countries are doing 130 mm gun on this kind of a platform. Now, 130 mm gun means it's almost a very good artillery with a 20-30 kilometer range, which people are already doing that. So, if we do that with precision ammunition with a 130 mm gun on it, you can imagine the scope of battle it increases for us along the northern front. Where in the Himalayas, you may not have the requisite bridges to carry tanks across, but such kind of a vehicle, the picture which you see behind, with the modification of, say, a gun of 130 mm, will bring in a kind of a new dimension when you can move it quickly up the Himalayas, up the Himalayas means we are talking of altitudes which are in excess of 12,000, 13,000, 15,000 feet. Like the road which is open 3 days, 4 days ago, the DSDBO, the Durbuk-Shayok DBO road, it passes or it ends up at a place which is 16,000 feet above sea level.
Okay.
So you can imagine the load on the tank, you take it also, the kind of repair and maintenance you will require. Possibly this such kind of a vehicle with a better gun fitted on it could be the answer for the Himalayas, Vishal.
Okay. So these are the advantages as far as, utilization of wheeled armored.
One second.
Yes.
See, this road, unfortunately, I've been there, actually to DBO. Even if you have to take the tank or the APC, you have to take it on tank transporters. So you have to take it on wheels. You can't take tanks could be maneuvering when they are going into battle, but to take them to the place of launching.
And it needs a 70-ton class
It needs a Tatra. So you have to place it on a tank transport.
So that is where wheeled armor platforms come in handy.
So wheeled
Lighter,
armor
quicker.
Correct. So I mean, General Arora brought out all these points. I'm only giving a little explanation.
Okay.
That's all.
Let me bring in General Arora again here. And General Arora, let's now move on to the specific, prototype which has been developed by the DRDO and Tata Motors, something which is undergoing tests as well. So how do we look at the characteristics of this wheeled armored platform? What does it pack and how useful is it for our forces?
Why has it been developed is the first thing. In the 1971 war, we had BTR-60 APC, Russian stuff or Soviet stuff, which we used in the Battle of Khulna and Jessore. These were amphibious. They helped us a lot. And we also had later on the OT-40, these were called Scott APCs. These were also very good APCs. They outlived their lives. Some of them are lying in store. Sometimes they have been revived, but it's not been very successful, so they are obsolete. But because they were so helpful during the war in Bangladesh, that we acquired the BMP-1 at that time, and it became part of our mechanized warfare philosophy. And 1984 we got the BMP-2. Now sometime in 2009, the army started thinking about acquiring these replacements for the BMP. And the thought process at that time was, and RFI was also issued for a wheeled APC. And that's how DRDO and along with Tatas and some other private players, they developed the wheeled armored platform.
Okay.
Now remember, we also had the BRDM-2 reconnaissance vehicle, which was on wheels, which came from Russia in the year 84-85. I remember it was used extensively. We raised some recce and support battalions, which continue with that equipment now, and it requires replacement or upgrade. So we've had very good experience with wheeled APCs and with wheeled reconnaissance vehicles. And so the RFI was put out, this was developed. This is a very fine vehicle. The BTR-60 and the Scott were in the range of 10.5 to 14.5 tons. One had a crew of 3, another had a crew of 2, but they carried between 9 to 12 passengers. Very good speed, almost very negligible preparation required for them to go amphibious.
Okay.
This WHAP, which has been developed now, requires no preparation to go amphibious. But this is 25 tons. It has the same armament as our APC, the BMP-2. In fact, the Tatas had developed the chassis and the vehicle, and the turret was then put from the BMP-2, but later on, with the help from Lockheed, General Dynamics, BAE, Kongsberg, we had a new turret with a remote control station, weapon station, and with automatic cannon, anti-tank guided missile.
Okay.
So with a remote control station, you don't have to pop out of the APC, the commander or the driver, or nobody has to pop out. It's all controlled from inside. So the WHAP today is in the same class as the Boxer or the Piranha, which are the latest APCs in the world in the Western militaries.
Okay.
Now it remains to be seen whether the army goes for it or not. The army has had a look at it. They have tried it out in the mountains. In fact, demonstrations or some things have been given to them. But the problem is, right now the army is struggling with the projects for the FICV, the Future Infantry Combat Vehicle, and the FRCV, both of which require a lot of money. Between the two of them, 80,000 crore rupees are required. So a wheeled armored platform like this one definitely has its uses. It's an infantry carrying combat vehicle.
Okay.
So it can be used in various forms like motor carrier, NBC vehicle, reconnaissance vehicle, as a logistics vehicle for carrying cargo in a battlefield environment where you require to keep up with the armored columns. So definitely there are uses.
So
it has also been established that our industry has come of age, that DRDO designed stuff can be made to international standards by a private industry.
And that's quite a significant aspect.
Yes, definitely it's a significant aspect.
Okay.
And whatever latest technologies are available abroad, they can be assimilated and then we can develop them on our own.
Okay.
So I don't think this effort should go in waste. We must find uses for it and how we can induct them in the armed forces, even when there is a funds crunch.
Okay. General Chakravorty, your views on this prototype which has been developed, and with as General Arora is pointing out, with the Indian Army scouting for FRCV and FICV, this is meanwhile the best possible option available there.
Oh, yeah, see, as far as Indian Army is concerned, definitely, as you correctly brought out, one is firstly replacement of the BMP-2s, and then you are looking for the FRCV, the FICV. So in that, where does this fit in? It definitely has a place. because one, we have got BRDMs in high altitude, which we have put some missiles, and therefore these vehicles can do very well over there. The beauty of this vehicle is, I must explain to you, whenever you want to move something on the track, the first thing you need is a tank transporter. Having actually operated tanks and commanded them as a commanding officer, the first thing I look for is a tank transporter, because my tracks can't take my tanks to any place. With this vehicle, as he has brought out, the beauty of it is, today let's say I place it at Loma, or where you got some tanks, or I place it at Karu in high altitude. This will go on its own steam to DBO or Darbuk. It doesn't need a Tatra to go. For every tank, I need a Tatra. And that Tatra also needs certain other vehicles to go along with it. Before the tanks could be placed on the line of control, on the line of actual control, or near to the line of control, let's say, or on the international border. So these people have got a place in the present army itself. Next, you see, we are doing a bulk of a large proportion of the army, as well as Central Armed Police Forces and Assam Rifles are deployed in what is known as the counter-insurgency environment. Now, if you look at the armor and the other things, there is a tank protection provided for it. You can move this vehicle even in urban areas. Today, in urban areas, if you want to move, would you like to go normally in a vehicle which is called the South African Casper? Casper again is a wheeled vehicle. Alright. So this vehicle could be tried in place of the Casper.
Okay.
And it would give you reasonable bullet protection for you to move around in all these urban areas and carry out.
Okay.
Third, let's take today the defense of the permanent installations. A lot of our installations are today under what you call threat. I mean, say the numbers are only increasing day by day, and the threat cannot be correctly measured or quantified at any point of time. Now, few of these vehicles, you have to do what is known as mobile patrolling, or what you got to say is that you got to have what you know as quick reaction teams. So these quick reaction teams of these vehicles can be formed.
So there are multiple uses.
There are multiple. You cannot today, for example, move today, say, let's say BMP-1s in the city of Delhi. I'm just asking you, this vehicle can move. It can move today, even with normal traffic, stop at a red light. Whereas if you start moving Tatras, please look at the Republic Day when it comes over here, when all these Tatras and all and tanks keep moving on, tanks don't move by themselves. They move on the Tatras. You see the what you call timing it moves. All the timings have to be after midnight and it has to stop by 4 o'clock. This can move right now. It will keep moving, maybe a little bit of this thing.
Okay, so there are multiple usages. Ajay, I'd like to bring you on this aspect as well. Where does it fit in, obviously, but also the other aspect, that is how this, clearly establishes the coming of age of the private players in Indian defense industry.
Vishal, I'll answer your second question first. See, I always maintained that there is no way forward other than we make on our own, because that is the only way we can actually be called a global power and aspiring to sit on the what is called the so-called global high table. I'll take you back to 2-3 big examples of the private industry coming of age. One, say 10 years ago, the L&T developed the outer hull of the nuclear powered submarine, the Arihant. And the recent example is the Dhanush guns and the ATAGS guns, which are being made in private sector. Dhanush is made by OFB, the ATAGS is made with the private sector. And also, when we talk of such a vehicle, please understand, such a vehicle is possibly needed by the army somewhere, because it is looking at a future infantry combat vehicle, or the FICV program as it is called, and we are looking at thousands. We are also looking at an upgrade of the BMP-2. I don't know if the army wants this immediately or no, but this has multiple uses, as the two generals have pointed out. Why it has multiple uses? Please understand, this is cheaper to run. You can't take a tank everywhere. I have seen, these people have operated, I have seen with my own eyes tanks going up to in unimaginable places in the Himalayas. The Tatra tanks, the Tatra carries it. Tatra is a truck, huge truck, 16 axles, 8 axles, 10 axles. The kind of effort it takes to put a tank up there is huge. The cost is huge, and it needs a change of tracks after a few hundred kilometers. This kind of vehicle, especially for reconnaissance, holding on to ground, and especially for when you are doing a defensive role, can be a major thing, especially in the Himalayas. Okay. The threat on the western front is totally different from the threat on the northern front. Northern front. Totally different, because the northern front threat will be very sudden and will be possibly, as military people say, will be very short and burst. Will not be like the western front, where possibly traditional tank battles may take place. On the northern front, traditional tank battles may not take place. Your neighbor on the north has got already developed a light tank, which is around 31, 32 tons, which is around 6 tons more heavier than this one. So possibly they have done something to this effect with the track. They possibly also have something like this on wheels, a tank on a smaller, lighter kind of a tank on wheels. So do we have a space for this? I believe we have a space for this, especially in terms of the cost of running such programs, Vishal.
Okay, so there it is, all the aspects of a wheeled armored platform. And clearly, as our panelists have pointed out, this is one platform which not only provides protection, but also provides mobility, which is very crucial. And there are multiple roles which this platform can be used for. We'll come back again next week with a different topic and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.